Just a golden.
What's up, Wiz? Wiz the Wizard.
What's up, Alec?
You're
Nice to see you.
nice to see
It's
you again, man.
been about a week and a half. No, 2 weeks. A week and a half. No,
Yeah,
we got back Sunday.
yeah. It's been like a week. It's been less than a week.
Yeah.
Feels like a feels like it's been longer,
Yeah, it has.
which is pretty
That's
crazy. But
crazy.
last time we did a podcast together was almost a year ago. So
That's true. I was living
that's
in Greenwood, and now I'm in Sunset Park. So a whole new location as well.
yeah,
But
dude. I think that segues us into what I wanted to start to ask you about, which is living in New York City, man.
oh boy.
I want to hear a bit about it because I'm not sold on Atlanta. Like I love Atlanta. It's helped my
Mhm.
film career a lot, but I don't feel like I'm an Atlanta guy, you know. And also, I've no all my family's in New York, and there is that allure in New York. There's part of it that scares me, like how expensive it is. But hopefully, I'll start making more money as I'm coming an adult, getting some adult money,
Mhm.
and also yeah, just maybe how kind of scary it is. But I also feel like, dude, if I want to move there, I'm not gonna do it when I'm like old.
No, you
Yeah.
now I think now would be the time for you to move up here. And I think like Atlanta is a fun city, but I think yeah, there's also that just commercial draw of New York in general. It is something to live out here. I think when you're trying to break in, you need to like really hustle to make the connections, especially because that's the whole thing of like, oh, it's who you know, it's not what you know, is really, really prevalent out here. I've learned that the hard way. So I've only just recently started like pick up work and stuff. Um, so that's been nice. But yeah, no, you have to like I'm trying to think what all have I done? This,
Yeah, it was. I've heard too with New York that it's kind of like to get the full experience too, you need some money. And I think
yeah,
that's what scared me about moving to there right out of college, you know.
yeah, yeah. I think that definitely was a challenge to overcome. It's and still something I'm dealing with now is finances because the city is literally designed to make you spend money, but like in a very appealing way because there's just so much good food, there's so much to do, but because so many people will want to be here, everything is so much more expensive as well. So like drinks going out is going to be way more expensive if you're into that sort of thing. Um, and then like even just like events, tickets to things. But you can at the same time you can find a lot of really cool local stuff as well. So it's like a nice, almost like balances each other out because you have like the mainstream like big Broadway ticket shows in like Manhattan and whatnot, like Lion King, Hamlet, etc., or Hamilton. Um, but then you have like small local plays, like little like art shows and stuff. There's a ton of like art galas and events, and even like little film festivals that just take place throughout the city. All these places, like especially if you're looking for work, are also really good places to network. Um, and another thing that I also learned is you need freaking business cards. Like people like we didn't think we needed before because I think networking through school and stuff was a lot more like, yeah, just might follow my Instagram and stuff and whatnot. But now, like, especially here, people like have shit to do or they're just like going in and out. Like, for example, there's a guy I work at a coffee shop, and there was a guy who came and sat in today. I didn't have my business cards, and I wasn't able to give him my information. Also, because the conversation wasn't like entirely about working for them, but like it like the topic came up because he was talking about like I was like, oh, I mentioned Blind Cop from what we did over the summer and the 2 weeks, and he's like, oh, you do the movie stuff? I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, you do video and editing? I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, that's one of the which is also kind of ironic. He's like, that's one of the most um like sought after and like high end jobs you can have in the city is like content creation, because everybody needs it and everybody like will pay quite a bit to get it too. Um, so you gotta like, you honestly, you just have to like be ready. And I wasn't ready today. But then again, there's also like a storm and stuff going on. I had other stuff to worry about, but that would have been, yeah, but yeah, you just gotta be ready. There's a lot of people will pay a lot of money for your expertise and such as well. But
have you gotten work through giving out business cards?
uh, not business cards per se, but like I guess being like a human business card, just being like, hey, like I'll write stuff down. Like I'll like at the shop we have like loose leaf paper, or sometimes I just like carry it with me. So for example, at the Muay Thai gym I go to, I'm filming a video for them on Tuesday because I was just like, hey, I do video stuff. Here's my info, whatever. And also obviously I go there often enough so I can like talk to them personally, which also helps too, is like going out and talking to people personally, because you get to pressure them a little bit more as well. It's easier. And also just like human interaction is, you can be like people, there's no miscommunication with the phone, textation, blah, blah, blah.
So you haven't gotten much through just like social media. It's all, you'd say like 90% of it is personal connections and relationships.
90% of what I got, is personal stuff. Like I've gotten like one or two things from online, but besides that, it's all been just like, honestly, from working at the coffee shop, there's been people who come in who just, because a lot of like business owners or like lawyers and stuff will come in as well. And like some people, they'll want videos, like but a lot of the thing is too, is a lot of these people will say they want video stuff, but like just kind of leave you hanging as well. Cause they'll be like, oh, that is a good idea, I will hire you. Doesn't mean they're going to as well. Like you just kind of have to accept
They
that.
probably won't.
Yeah, and they probably won't as well. Yeah. And like you just have to like either reach back out or like just like, it's important to reach out and then also just to follow up and double check as well. Because they also might have just like slipped their mind, especially if they're just going about their day, and if it's not like the main thing they're trying to focus on. But yeah, sometimes, or they just will ghost you or just not do anything. So yeah, it's kind of like dating. It's interesting. But, yeah,
that's what's cool about New York City though, is like it is kind of run on like culture and the people, and there's so many people that you probably meet throughout your day, which is awesome, but it does sound a little exhausting too. And yeah, I
come home drained from like just socially drained, and then I'll just like lay on the couch and take like an hour and a half power nap sometimes, because it's just, it is exhausting because you're just using your head and you're just talking to people all day. But yeah, it is a big dense city, but it's honestly like at its core, it's almost more like a little village. And because you meet so many people every day, like everyone knows someone who knows someone, and then that just kind of like builds up really quickly. So if you really like, you interact with the neighborhood and take part in like neighborhood art shows and like just go out and do things, and like block parties are huge here as well. Like it's a big, especially in the neighborhoods in South Brooklyn, is very like, it's very much a community feel as well. Like literally everybody knows each other. It is like just like a small village that just happens to be New York City, and like kids who grew up in Brooklyn go to school in Manhattan, those that interacts or intersects as well. And everyone knows someone who knows someone, which is pretty cool too. So.
That is cool. And so how do you think it's different? Because you live in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, I live in Sunset.
So how do you think that's different from like living in the city? Is that, you think you get less of that like village feel that you're talking about? And is it a more of like a fucking like Disneyland or something like that?
I think it definitely can. My girlfriend now, Jade, she used to live in the Upper East Side, and it definitely felt more like, um, yeah, like Disneyland, or like, yeah, you've commuted to live in New York, and now you live in New York with a bunch of people who also have moved to live in New York. But that in itself is also a whole other experience, because it's like, okay, these are like industry like specific professionals that are in that you're just like living around as well, which is pretty cool, because you have like, obviously, like everyone, like not everyone, but like a lot of people want to move to New York. Um it's such like a it's like a celebrity of a city, and like a lot of people want to move here and like take advantage of the opportunities. So it's cool having like, um just optimistically, obviously, like it's cool having that community in Manhattan as well. And but obviously with that you get a lot more like commercial stuff, as opposed to genuine stuff, in terms of like work, like artwork and people as well. There's a lot of people who also talk to you just for your work connections, and they really don't care about who you are, essentially. So you gotta watch out for that. But you learn to pick up the red flags and the clues the more you interact with people. You start to pick up patterns and stuff. But I think it also just depends what neighborhood in Manhattan you live, because obviously like there's some neighborhoods where it's like only transplants, but then some neighborhoods where there's a lot of like locals who are living as well. I can't name any. I haven't been here long enough to really know, but I've just kind of heard the word of mouth every once in a while, like about people who just like live in the city. But I think Brooklyn's cool, honestly. You're not overwhelmed by the city, because Manhattan can be a lot, because everything's happening every time. Like everything's happening all the time. Whereas Brooklyn, you kind of get a bit of a Brooklyn or Queens. You just get a break from the city, and you can just do neighborhoody things, as opposed to being just like dialed to 11 nonstop. So,
do you still go to the city often, even though you live in Brooklyn?
Mm-mm. Oh, Jesus. Oh. Wrong place. Let me reset. There we go. No, I don't go that much. I'll go. When was the last time I went? Actually, I think it was to the comic book store or something.
So like Cloud Comics or whatever.
No, it was Midtown Comics and then Forbidden Planet.
Midtown Comics. I've been at that one.
Yeah, I picked up a model kit, another Gundam model kit. So, yeah, no, I mean, like, the city's cool, but I don't know. Brooklyn has trees, which is nice, and then Manhattan is, like, if you don't have a reason to go into the city, then like, why? Everything is like way more expensive there, and everything is always like, there's always twice as much construction going on, twice as much noise and stuff going on as well. Oh, excuse me. So I don't know. For me personally, I just like having this apartment here, just because I don't have to. Yeah, you get like the quiet neighborhood feel instead of just the city on all the time. And sometimes you don't want the city, so it's good to have the option of the break, or you have the option of going into the city. And I think it's better to have the option of going into the, I don't know, like it could be better to have the option of going into the excitement as opposed to being drained from it, because I think it keeps, for me, it just keeps New York City like a little bit like special. Like I'm still like, oh, I feel like like everything still feels fresh for me. But yeah, that's fine.
And it's probably nice to have that, like, okay, if I go home I can escape this. And I'm sure that they have a really good like a subway system, so I'm sure it's not that hard to get back. Wow, that water fucked you up, dude.
Yeah, dude, I gotta hit it again. There we go. Yeah,
I I got a question though. Do you have like a pulse at all on like the film community? Like how is that there? Or another question might be like, do you meet a lot of people that are into film stuff or?
Sort of.
Yeah.
So there's the post-production supervisor I told you about. Um, and actually my coworker's brother as well, he's a videographer. And those two work in the same building. We just found out the other day, which is kind of funny. But I've met one guy, Rob. He is I think he's an on-set production coordinator. But he does mostly like commercials and like ads and stuff, which there's such a huge market for advertising and commercials. And the best way to get into that is like applying to jobs at like production studios and such. But it's a little harder to do freelance because especially for like these big companies, but all these big companies do shoots like all the time, especially in around South Brooklyn. There's a lot of in the summertime, like I've gotten people like PAs and stuff coming in to do coffee runs, which is annoying because
they're like, I need 4 coffees right now.
They're like 26 drinks. I think that's the most I've had him. And the Grubhub driver came and he's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, sorry, dude. There's like 15 bags here," but that was insane. But yeah, no, there's Rob, the production coordinator. I've had a makeup artist who works for like Target and department store brands come in. I've had a couple different PAs. I've also had it's like mostly PAs or like office PAs or production coordinators and such. And again, like they're in and out. Most of them have my information, but they're just people just like going about trying to do their stuff. So that's why you gotta like just be relaxed about it. You can't expect a callback every single time. You keep it. It's a happy surprise if it does. And that's kind of like the reality I'm facing right now with freelance. But once it snowballs, which is finally starting to, then it really becomes just like, just a norm. And then you keep these clients, and then that's how you maintain rhythm and maintain income, especially. So.
That's what I like about Atlanta is, at least like film wise, they have like a really good film community, and they have they have the Atlanta like Film Society too, which puts on events, which is cool. And I'm sure there's shit like that in New York.
Do you have to like pay? Like, is it like a club to join, or is it?
You have to pay. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is kind of a bummer. Or just like I took a class once. I took like a directing class, and I think it was like $150 or $100 or something.
Oh.
But for like just one class, so it was a little bit like a ripoff. And it was like a Zoom with some lady, and she's like, "I'm a commercial director in Atlanta,"
and she's just okay. So there's nothing on set stuff as well.
No, it was like very. She almost treated it. She thought we were gonna be like all everyone who joined was gonna be like novices, I think.
Yeah.
And it was like me and some like lady who like does professional costumes for movies, and she was trying to direct a new short film or something, and she made a feature before. And then some random dude who looked like he was in his like parents' basement.
Yeah.
But he also looked like he was like 30, and he's like, "Yeah, I kind of suck." So that was like the group. And yeah, he was honest about it. But I just remember she would like, it was kind of a good meeting, but she kept harping on, she's like, "You need to find your voice and like what you're saying. Like for me in my videos, I'm trying to like spread, like I'm trying to change people and spread good ideas." And I was like, it was like, "Hey, I just finished making my feature film, and I don't think I'm like I'm not very conscious of my voice or whatever. And we kind of got like a little debate about it. And her whole thing was like, you need to know that stuff because you need to like get a point across. And what I was trying to also say was like, but I also don't want to box in what that might be and say
Yeah.
like, this is my boy. This is what blah blah blah. So that was an interesting like debate back and forth, and I don't know what is better. But I do find like I do find that a little weird too. Not weird, but just a little forced if like you watch a movie and like you just get slapped with like, here's the message at the end.
So she wanted to really like spoon feed it.
Maybe not spoon feed it, but that was like the feeling I was getting from her. And I was like, yeah, I kind of know what I'm getting at, but I don't want to also, I don't want to like put restraints on it.
Yeah.
But there is something to like also putting yourself in a box and being creative.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't like to work that way. Like the whole way of you see some people when they make a movie, which is a valid way to make a movie. There's some really good movies like this, but I personally don't want to do it, which is like one location and then like one character and then like maybe there's a bad guy. Like you see a lot with the horror, like that's like a very common indie horror vehicle for a movie. It's like one house, lady usually, and dude with scary mask with a knife, you know?
I feel like people are just kind of, not that is a bad thing, obviously, because like you said, there have been a lot of really good stuff and content that's been made from that. But I feel like that's also kind of just a way for people to work around their budget and just like, or if they like don't really want to make this movie as well, to be like, yeah, sure, a house, like that's it. Like it kind of, but it is also like a way to really force yourself to think, okay, well, because this has been done so much, what else can we do with this? And honestly, it's exercise.
It is a smart way to make a movie.
Yeah,
it's definitely like the smartest way to make a movie, but it just doesn't like interest me personally. Yeah. I think I would be bored trying to make that movie.
Mm-hmm. You gotta really know what you're doing.
You gotta really know, and you gotta really try something super different. What's cool is I guess if you have like a small enough budget, you could maybe like affect the location and have like floors blow up and shit, but you don't see that a lot in those like one house movies, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
It's more like guy in window, like, oh, then he's gone and then he's inside, or
close the doors. Why were they open to begin with?
And these are good movies, but I'm thinking of like Hush. I don't know if you've seen Hush. Where it's like they take the concept of like person trapped in a house and serial killer trying to get in, and they put a kind of fresh spin on it, which is she's deaf.
Cool.
So and maybe in the same way we did that with Blind Cop, where it's like Blind Cop 2, Blind Cop 2, Come and See Fury, where we take the action movie and we flip it that he's blind, but then we flip it back because it doesn't matter. In fact, he's a better cop than the rest.
Yep.
So maybe that undid it, but I'm definitely not no expert, but I'm just saying like my opinions. Maybe there's a movie, maybe I haven't sat and thought about it, but it just seems like that's like it feels too easy, dude.
Yeah, too easy. And also like, maybe, I don't know, maybe not that you didn't have anything to say, but also like maybe you just wanted to make a movie and you just kind of communicated subconsciously. It doesn't always have to be so direct and in your face. No, not in your face, but like.
I totally get the want to make a movie. I think too, like we really try to focus on before that, trying to get a story across, and that will be very evident in your film if you have like a story or not, because that's ultimately what, at least with American cinema, that's what the biggest draw was like the story, the script or whatever. Usually they would say American films with the best script.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just something I think about, because I like, at least in the writing process, I like to not put the shackles on the imagination and let it run wild and feel true to this world you're trying to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you gotta just go, let your mind explore, and then you can work on the rules of the universe or whatever and start to really build it. But yeah, I mean, you just gotta sketch everything out first, and no lines have to be perfect right away. But yeah, because if you just say something, then then you're just saying something. But if you want to make a movie, the story should come first and foremost, because that's how you're getting what you're going to communicate in the first place. Regardless, you got to have the story in order to really, if you want to like effectively communicate your ideas and such.
And that's what I think, that's what people want to connect to. People want to hear a good story, whether in fiction or in real life. You know, like you see like people root for the underdog sometimes in like fights. That's a story right there. That's like overcoming adversity. And going back to that whole like finding your voice, I think maybe I do need to keep looking and pinpoint maybe a through line between my work, but I also don't want to be too conscious of that, because ultimately I'm trying to tell a story to the audience, and I'm not instead trying to give them a lesson, because I think you learn more by your own interpretation, living through the shoes of a character on a journey, than you do from the teacher going, don't do this, that's bad, this is good. You know, like that doesn't connect the same in a person's brain or imagination or heart, you know, and feeling it.
That's really true, because like you get to really see and understand that character's perspective as well. And then I think if you do want to communicate something, and if you want people to receive it, that's where like empathy really is important, because you just really get to understand and connect. And if people can do that, then like, okay, then they can understand like why like one would see something a certain way, or what they're or really put together what is trying to be told and said. So, and also people's brains like to work, so giving it that something just like think around, like a little, almost like a puzzle to do as well, which keeps the person more engaged and will probably make them more receptive of the information too. But I'm not.
People's brains need that juice, and that's why as filmmakers, we owe it to the audience to not get lazy and try to make the best like stories possible, because people like need that shit. And in fact, like you just made me think of, there's that quote from Aristotle where they're talking about the old Greek plays, and they're saying like tragedies are important for the audience because they'll learn empathy for it, of like, hey, this guy that fucked up and like, you know, stabbed his eyes out and chopped his genitals off or whatever. Like that could have been you if you make the wrong choices, you know?
That's very true.
So
consequence.
I think that what I'm saying is that lady should give me my $100 back. And I would like to teach some of these Atlanta classes.
I think that's, you're more than qualified, especially if this lady's just like, tell us, it's show, don't tell. And she's like, tell them.
But, and she reminded me a lot of Adrian from, if you remember her, from The Cage. Was that her name, Adrian? Miss Boner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she was, when she's like, if you need me, just contact me and I'm always available. She's never available.
She's never working. Yeah,
Never working, always on lunch, no
she
matter
was a
what
lot
time.
like she was a lot like her, I felt. And she showed us her Vimeo, which was good, but like she
Yeah.
had one of those videos where she showed us where it's like someone filming her and she's like
Yeah.
walking through a field like, and it's like a poem like I'm in touch with God and God is blah blah blah. And I'm like, she's like,
He's
my
like,
voice is in there. So it was almost like a reel, but it was also her. So it was a
like
bit like a
Jordan,
reel and like a personal anecdote of herself
dude,
inside of the reel. And I was like, I felt like I had to bathe after that.
she's trying to communicate that, what is it, like the beginning shot of like the opening shot of Gladiator, where he's like walking through the field.
Yeah. She
Freaking,
has a sword with her.
that reminds me of the from the film festival we went to, the Southern Shorts Awards. There was the video,
Yeah.
and it's just like him just being God essentially. He's like, man,
Oh, yeah.
I am the chosen one.
Was that the
And
one we beat? They were
yeah,
second place. Yeah, that was a weird video. It was like a perfume ad for 10 minutes.
yeah, but man, yeah, that feels like she's honestly, that feels like more advice for commercial products and like
Maybe. And
content.
there is something too, like I understand what she's saying. What her point was that find your voice and then kind of like use that to market yourself. So then
Yeah.
people know like it is good to know like, oh, here's their purpose. So
Mhm.
they might fit our brand. But I think the fear with that is like once you label that and start using that to market yourself, you
Uh,
run into the issue of becoming like a facade. Like my films are about beauty. And then it's
mhm.
like every film, okay, it's about beauty. Like I feel like you just kind of you have the issue of just becoming a phony.
Yeah, that's true. Phony, or just like you're making the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, getting disconnected. I figured
Yeah,
it out. This is the why. I don't know. And
yeah,
that
yeah.
those are
That's just
maybe I think those are maybe those are rational fears of mine, but I just get like those vibes a bit
yeah,
from that conversation.
yeah. I get that. I mean, yeah, everyone has their own process, like their own way so. Um, I think it's important that you know yours as well. So you don't have to listen to this freaking Adrian Boner type lady giving you.
uh, yo, Adrian.
Yo, Adrian. I definitely lean toward that douchey New Yorker for a moment. Um, After a couple months living here, like when like finding a job started to become more stressful, but I was also getting more leads. Obviously, right before the pandemic, so
Mhm.
all that went to nothing because they all disappeared. But yeah, there's just like so much shit to do, and you're constantly stimulated as well, and it becomes like you can't help but be a little narcissistic because like if you're not, you're gonna get completely like drowned and overwhelmed with everything that's going on.
Yeah,
Um,
you kind of have to in New York. It seems like you have to be a bit of an asshole to get through your day alive and through the
just
crowd of people.
yeah, because like you're not, most of these people you're never gonna see again the rest of your life. So you just kind of like just fucking. I would rather be looked at in passing of like just like okay, fucking, all right, why are you in such a hurry? Because like I've also thought of people that way, and I'm like, and I have no, like 3 days ago probably, and then I don't know what they look. I don't remember what they look like. I don't even remember why I was mad. Like it's just gone from my memory. And obviously, I assume that probably happens with other people too. Like no one's like so obsessed with me. They like I bump them on the shoulder and they're like, this fucking person, I'm gonna
You have
track you down.
to learn to let it go. Yeah.
Yeah, just like let it go. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I think just New Yorkers in general, just kind of everyone lives by that. So like everyone's like an asshole, but everyone's just like direct. And but if you need to be helpful, then New Yorkers will be helpful. So it's a very they'll there was a saying that like New Yorkers they won't help you when you want it, but they will help you when you need it. So which is nice. Which again brings you back to that whole sense of
Mm-hmm.
community. So.
I think that's a better word for it too. Maybe not like being an asshole, but people in New York are very direct because you don't have time to to skate around like, hey, sorry, I don't want your CD. You gotta be like, fuck you, dude, get out of my way.
Yeah, dude, I have shit to do. Don't fucking talk to me. And that's it. No, and they're like, oh, okay, that's it. You don't have to explain your day or your life story to anybody. Like, you're not obligated to do anything. So it's just like, in those moments of commute, everyone else is an NPC. So just fuck them. Just
I mean, yeah, that's one way to go about the day. Yeah. I mean, and then like besides closer to family and you know, I got friends in New York. One of the biggest draws I've kind of felt lately is like it's the perfect modern city per se. Like it's literally just a 21st century city. There's really been nothing quite like it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the materialistic city. So it's like if it's time to check it out, it's kind of now, you know.
Yeah,
and like I wouldn't want to settle down there in terms of like all like, you know, super far in the future, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, yeah, it is like it's like Paris Hilton in prime. It's very celebrity and just the like you said, I think materialistic is definitely a very good way to put it. Because there is a lot of that. Obviously the neighborhoods further out from the city is become a lot more genuine, and those areas are cool. But like, Manhattan, New York has just so much to offer. So I think it is good. It's fun to be like young and poor as well, because you just kind of have to figure out how to make things work in the city. And then who knows, maybe when we're rich and have a bit more money, we can always come back and like actually enjoy New York to like its fullest potential in terms of just being able to do, I guess there's more options. But that's also the thing too. There's just so many options for everything at every level as well, which is really cool. But yeah, it is designed to make you spend money though. So you definitely have to, I think that's also where that hustle attitude comes from, because it's fucking expensive to live here. So everyone's
there is like an energy there, like a busy, everyone's on a mission type of feel there.
Days off are like frowned upon. It can be kind of stressful. That's because like everyone like it's the norm to just work all the time, because like you're literally like working to live here basically. Like I'm like usually out. Like when I first was living here, when I was working like full time basically, like I would wake up and I would go to bed in my apartment, and that was it. Otherwise we'd just be out all the time. So it's almost like,
it's worth it.
Oh, right? Absolutely. Because also like that's your apartment, is you're there to like go out and do stuff in New York. Well, that's why you move here, is because you have something you want to do. So there isn't as much downtime, but I think like that energy is very contagious as well. I've been learning to chill out a little bit, but still, like when I even like going through the city, because everyone's like bustling and got something to do. It's like oh yeah, like you're like I have oh shit. It's like I have something to do too, and then you just kind of like catch that vibration or whatever, and then go
inhabit that,
doing, and then it just helps make you want to do what you want to do more. So it's cool.
And, that was one of my biggest draws for Atlanta, was the notion of like filming is easier here. It's easier to get locations and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But now that like Blind Cop's pretty much done, it's like, okay, I don't have to shoot here anymore. And what's cool is like realizing I can live in New York or wherever I want to live, and I can still do like film shit and fly out somewhere. I think it was the right move to be here and like be able to prep and shit. Gastone and I were able to prep. Gastone, the producer.
Yeah.
But I could still live in New York and like shoot shit there and like work on projects. I mean, that's the biggest thing is like working on developing shit and like writing. And New York is a writing city. At least kind of feels like it.
Oh, yes, it is. The amount of authors in coffee shops, the amount of authors in my coffee shop that just sit and write as well. Like it is a writing, it's a writing and it is an editing city as well. And if you're in advertisements, it is a shooting city. So, but yeah, no, I think you moving to Atlanta definitely worked to your advantage, especially with Blind Cop, because I don't know how different it would have turned out if you were living here instead, or like how possible some of the things that you wanted to do would even be.
I mean, we did shoot there too, and it was difficult. It was nice to get like back alley type areas. Those look awesome. But like we had to film in Central Park with a gun prop, and that was a nightmare. Not a nightmare. It went all right, but it was scary, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then honestly, like even if you were living here, you probably would have decided just to go down to Atlanta anyway. Because you'd be like, yeah, it's easier and cheaper to film down there. So you can
it is. It is, and there definitely is like a good base of people here, like film people and crew, and yeah. Okay, I want to ask you this though. How in terms of like finding editing stuff, how has that been? Do you see like a lot of job offers or people, because you mentioned there's a lot of good editing work, which is pretty much what I do now. My only issue with editing is I feel I'm a little slow, but I can edit pretty well if I take a while. But yeah, do you find a lot of like editing gigs and stuff throughout the city?
This is a very important lesson I learned. Is there's not quite as much like pure editing gigs, and most of those are already taken up by a lot of the more veteran editors. I find it a lot harder to break into editing because you'll get a lot more work if you learn how to pick up a camera as well. Like if you can do both, you're like 10 times more valuable. And if you can do After Effects, you're like a fucking gold mine, essentially. Anything past that, you're just like, they're gonna fucking crown you or something, because a lot of what people need is just like content from start to finish. They don't want to hire as much as you learn in school. And that was kind of like the route I was looking at it when I first was living here, which also would just like frustrate me, and also led to just didn't lead to much at all, is treating it like an official like film set and stuff, like how we were taught in school, where it's like, okay, you need pre-production stuff, you need production stuff, you have editing stuff, you have your specific roles. But that's like more so for like a Hollywood film and stuff. That doesn't work with just fucking Joe Mesman he wants to shoot an ad for his extermination company or something. He doesn't give a shit. He needs someone to shoot it, to edit it, and to give it to him, and he'll pay quite a bit of money for that.
You're like, yeah, I need 5 grips, 3 PAs. Yeah, you got crafty. And they're like, no, dude, just
no. Like, because again, back to the whole New Yorkers having a lot of stuff to do. Like, just like time really is money over here. Like that is so much more prevalent too, and it's very like people do not like having their time wasted. So you have to, the more you can do for them in terms of the content creation as a whole, the much more value you hold, because that's less money they have to spend, less time looking for the people for them. And then at the same time, it's more money for you. And also you just are able to do so much more, and you can offer your services to so many more clients, and your whole, your repertoire will expand exponentially more. And I think once I started really using my camera and getting familiar with it as well, that's helped me land a lot more things, which I think is probably the most important thing. Is just at a basis, you need to be able to shoot and understand the fundamentals of that really well, and then also be able to understand how to really put it together to give them a good final product. And then if you can do After Effects and stuff, then there is, it really is just down to how you interact at the interviews. Because if you know those three things, that's already a guaranteed yes. It's just who do they like more at that point. So, and that's where the networking and who you know comes in. So
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a Casey Neistat type of like work you have to do out there.
yeah, it's just a lot of talking.
Yeah, it's less like, give me a script and a pitch.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like, yeah, fast
Yeah.
paced, quick. We want a video quick and do it good.
Elevator pitches exclusively, and just like, yeah, can you do it? Yes or no. There's no like maybes. You do maybe, that's a no as well. So, and if you don't know, lie and then figure it out.
Yeah, you gotta lie and just figure that shit out. That's the tough part. Is like I want to keep directing movies. So the hard part is finding directing gigs because there's not a lot, and the ones that are there, they're hiring like the ones that have the money are hiring the big directors.
Yeah, the big or it's already internal in their own company.
Yeah, or they have like a marketing agency that does that for them. So yeah, I guess it'd be nice for me to try to figure out one of those places and see if I got to work at one. I don't know. The job I have now, this is also my favorite part about Atlanta is my job's awesome. I really like it. And I'm almost kind of moving into a tiny bit more of a directing role there, which is cool, but still mostly editing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, if it leads to you actually directing, it might be smarter, depending on what you want to do, to stick with that, because if that's the thing, if you do make the jump to New York, you'll be starting from scratch. Obviously not from scratch, because you have us, you have others. There's other SCAD kids in the city. There's like
it's definitely
yeah.
But hey, that's like long term shit, which is more difficult. And that's the hardest thing with directing and like a lot of this film stuff is you kind of need to like front a lot of the expenses and like the hardships until like people are like, okay, they like prove themselves.
Yeah.
We'll like hire him. Because they won't really just take a guy off the street like, director, all right, here's $10,000. That doesn't really seem like how it works. It's a lot more of like, you get like they really are trying to find people that are like, oh, they really like doing this thing. Let's hire them. And yeah, that's what it kind of feels like.
Yeah, you really have to. There really is an emphasis on going through the trials of combat over here, because you just got to kind of really put in the grunt work first, because that just builds a foundation for what you're going to end up being like not in charge of, but like interacting with exactly what you want to do, like whether that be directing. It's important to understand the roles that you're assisting and helping and literally directing. So they're like, yeah, you got to pay your dues first, and then eventually you've put in the work. It does reward in the end, though. That's the thing. So I think it's just important to stick with it. But
it is tough to like keep that think in like, I wouldn't say future tense, but more like long term in terms of like, even with like whatever that is, like saving money or working out, like you have a weight goal. It's really hard to like keep that like locked in your head in the future and then like go towards it. But this was something interesting coming back from Denver is like, came back from Denver Sunday and I had to work Monday. So I was like, fuck. And I just, we're used to that high altitude. So it's pretty like disorienting to like get back. And I'm like, I'm on a different part of the earth. Like, this is pretty crazy. Yeah. I actually did this, I did this interesting like exercise, just kind of like innately, where I did like some meditation stuff. But I did this thing I learned from drone pilot, learning how to get my drone pilot license, which is like, when you're in a new space and you're about to fly the drone, look each I think like a 30-degree direction, and then stare at that for like a few seconds, and then stare at that, and then take all the way around. And I did that here, and it was kind of interesting. It like almost helped me orient myself, but also like put the thought in my head of like, oh, you need a target to
Yeah.
go towards, or you're going to be lost in terms of like the steps to move in life. If you're just kind of aimlessly going, you kind of need that target to latch onto sometimes to be like, okay, this is where we want to end up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes it takes people a bit longer to find the target, but that's interesting. It's almost, yeah, like taking like a little photographic, like a 3D model in your head.
And it
Just
does
figure,
it, but I think it doesn't need to be like a major target
yeah, just
in terms
general
of like
direction.
advice for people. But I think you need it, like it can be like the small thing, like, oh, I want to start getting a like better sleep, or I want to start, it's a goal. I want to read 30 minutes or whatever a
Yeah.
night. I feel like those are super cliche like examples, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're good ones to start with, especially too,
yeah.
because what is life without purpose? So if you're not doing anything, then what's the point? So,
This is what's cool about life, though. This is what's kind
uh,
of cool. Is like the thought that you can wake up any day and you can kind of pursue anything. Excuse me. Got a little
dude,
choked up there in the burps.
well,
You can like kind of pursue any goal or dream you want. Like that's kind of cool. It's like cool. The thought of that is liberating,
yeah, yeah, you literally can do whatever. Technically, you could do whatever you want the moment you like regain consciousness. Like I could choose to become a professional chef tomorrow. It's not going to happen right away, but I can be like, you know what? I want to be a professional chef. And then you take those trials and those steps and stuff, and maybe you can get there. And there's that one direction. But then maybe halfway through, you can also be like, you know what? I'm just going to go and be a professional gamer. And then, yeah, you just game. You literally can. Obviously, there is a time limit. You have a limited window of another 80 to 100 years. For us, hopefully about 80 years.
But that's a long, like it doesn't, it sounds like a lot, but it's definitely longer than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a year is a long time. Like people do.
How long did last week feel from just getting back? Felt like a while.
Like a while.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, those 2 weeks we were there was like a blink of an eye. Like I'm like, that's crazy that we're back. Like I'm back in New York. Like I'm back in New York.
It was a blink from this moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was really nice about that trip was us setting up the schedule beforehand so we could just like sit down and just jump into it. No questions asked. Just like, Let's go. Let's do.
Yeah. I think that was smart. Meetings regularly leading up until then. But,
yeah, that was an awesome trip. But I was going to go, like you mentioned, the whole like gaming stuff. That's what's like really cool is like, especially now, you can do whatever and you can make an audience. There's women that sell their farts in their bathwater and they're making more money than me.
There is a like 6-year-old child that enthusiastically reviews their new toys and they're making millions, plural, a week.
What is that? That's crazy. Yeah.
It's
I
insane.
guess, is that like they just consistently put it up and then like an audience grows? Like that's cool. Especially YouTube. YouTube has always been like a anomaly to me and always been a little bit of mystery. Like I've been trying to do YouTube shit since like maybe 2011. So since it was pretty early and I like would kind of be able to hop on some trends and stuff, but I found that stuff exhausting. And like I would just like do stupid stuff and like I was like doing a Minecraft video recording my screen off with my shitty camera. But it is, it's crazy how some things can pick up steam, especially now. It feels like there's so much stuff on here. It's like, how do you even get noticed? But then you see people like there's a lot of new people that are getting big. So that's cool too, that people like that get found and they just made their account like 2019 or whatever.
Yeah. They knew how to work the algorithm. But yeah, that's true. There is, yeah, it's just tougher to do it, but it is still possible. Yeah, big through these platforms.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I think it's a good optimistic place to end it. We hit an hour.
Not bad.
Not bad, dude.
Not bad. It was flowing pretty good too.
Peace out, bro. It's always nice chatting with you.
Likewise. See you on the other side.